did you ever take a towel and it's soaked with water? You take a towel, put it in water, pull it out. It's real heavy, right? Because it's holding all that water. You take it and you twist it and twist it and twist it as tight as you can and wring all the water out, right? There's no more water comes out. You untwist it and you retwist it again and more water comes out, right? Think of that as one of the tightenings. So now you undo it again and now you squeeze it again and even a little more water comes out, but less than the last time. And each time you undo it and retighten it, less and less water, but water keeps coming out. It's almost like a magic trick where you thought all the water was gone, but it wasn't. You had to actually unravel it and then bring it. Think of the unraveling as the pullback. Now, as it comes back up the right side, that's the tightening again. And now a little more water comes out until you squeeze it 4 or 5 times and you can't get any more water out of it, even when you unravel it. That's exactly what happens with the stock going through a contraction. As it's going through these contractions and you're going through trapped buyers and profit takers, trapped buyers, profit takers, trapped buyers, profit takers, it gets smaller and smaller and the supply is diminishing and diminishing. Now, when it gets to the right side and there's no more supply, you've got very tight price action and volume comes way down. That's good. That's exactly what you want to see. That means the stock is now vulnerable to being able to move very, very rapidly. And when buyers come in, the stock explodes. Let's take a look at another example. You'll see, and you can go back and look at the Amazons, Googles, Netflix, all the FANG stocks. You can go all the way back to the 1800s. We've studied stocks all the way to the 1800s, 1920s, 30s, Coca-Cola, GE, whatever you want to, the rail stocks back then. They're the same exact thing because this is timeless. This is not going to change. It's been the same since the beginning of the stock market. It's going to be the same 100 years from now because this is the law of supply and demand. It's just all about timing. So as Dave was talking about how look at the volume, you want to see the volume come in and then the volume starts to expand as you break out. I bought Netflix right here. This is in October of 2009. After you had a nice base here, here's your consolidation, your VCP, 27%, right? That's too volatile, not buying it there. Goes through this back and forth action, 17%. That's too volatile, not buying it there. Now it comes back up. Now, as Dave said, he's looking at those charts. When he sees that right side, that's what he's keying in on, that right side. When he sees the tightness on the right side, then he goes back and takes a look at the whole formation, maybe takes a look at the stock. Is it in a stage 2 uptrend? Does it have the earnings, the sales, the margins, all the things we're going to look for? And now we know because it doesn't matter. We're not going to look at the stock unless the stock is in a tight buy point on the right side because we're trying to time the trade at the exact right moment.
The other thing I would like to add too is that, and you might have mentioned, I mean, this hasn't changed. As a famous book says, there's nothing new under the sun. The other thing too is that you can, we're looking at, I guess, a daily time frame, but you could go down to an hourly time frame, a 15-minute, a 10-minute, a 5, even a tick chart, and you're going to see these same patterns over and over again.
Right. It doesn't know any time frame. It's because it's the law of supply and demand. Yeah. It's simply the law of supply and demand. And we're going to show you a bunch of examples here. Let's take a look at Square. So, and right now, I want you to key in mostly on just understanding the volatility contraction. Right? I'm just showing you examples to go through the volatility contraction and show you what we're looking for on that right side and how to count these contractions. We're on the contraction count. We're going to add in the volume and we're going to show you every little nuance right down to microscopic. But remember, we're on an overhead view right now, right? Maybe even an aerial view. We went from a satellite down to an aerial. Now we're kind of going overhead. So we're going to zoom in and we're going to zoom in really, really tight really soon here. But take a look how you go through the pullback. 13%, 5%, 3%. This is a really, really tight stock to begin with. So again, I would love this price action. And this is one that you actually had 2 buy points. You had a buy point right here at 5% because that was tight enough. 5% was tight enough, but then the stock actually pulled back again. And within that basing, you got another buy point. And this happens very often. We'll talk about multiple buy points a little later. So take a look at this chart because this is really interesting. Look how tight we get on the right side here. Look at the volume. You see how the volume comes way, way down? So this is a quintessential VCP, where you go through and you get tighter and tighter until you get so tight and the volume comes away. And that tells you that supply is really, really diminished. It's not coming to market anymore. And now, boom, you break out of there and now you're off to the races, right? So guess what? This chart right here, this is a intraday chart. These are, I believe, 1 minute or 5 minute bars. And let me show you where this all exists. All this price action, all these bars, is from that point to that point within this one daily bar. So the reason why I'm showing this is not to say that you're to tell you to do this in day trade, although you could. We have lots of people that have taken these techniques and used them for day trading. You could, but to show you that it's completely timeless. This is the law of supply demand. These dynamics. It doesn't matter, weekly chart, daily chart, intraday chart, 1 minute, 5 minute, 15, 60 minute, doesn't matter. You're going to get the same type of action. And if you learn to time these properly, you'll understand the law of supply and demand. You'll understand the dynamics. Now, what I do is, and I've come up with this sort of template, if you will, where it's twofold. One, it's when I look at a stock, I'm sort of just overlaying this template. I want to see these contractions. So I'm looking for what I call the VCP footprint. And what this does, this actually, once you go through these contractions, I actually put a little acronym, if you will, or a little code. I'll put, and this was just, when I keep my notes by hand on my notebook, just so I can look at a stock and look at it on my notes and see the symbol. So I got X, Y, Z, as a potential candidate. I can see 40W, 31 by 3, 4T. That means 40-week base, largest contraction or largest pullbacks, 31%, 3% on the right, and it's gone through 4 contractions. So I get a picture, I get a mental picture of that in my head. Now, you don't have to write this down, but this is what you want to get familiar with, are these 3 aspects of the contraction, of the volatility contraction. And think of it like this. Like if I were to tell you, hey, do you know that guy Joe? And you say, who's Joe? Oh, he's that big guy. He's like 6'5", 284 pounds, got like a 46-inch waist, 55-inch chest. And I start giving you these dimensions. You wouldn't know what Joe looks like, but you'd have a pretty good idea of his build and his silhouette. So that's what I try to get. That's what I'm trying to get in my mind of what the silhouette is. And then the silhouette of a winning stock, you start burning into your mind of the stocks, that how they set up and what that silhouette looks like. And then you start overlaying that on your potential buys. And that's where you'll start to see this and really be able to see this in real time. So here's Netflix. This is on a weekly chart. So see, again, you're going to see the exact same thing, 27, 17, 8, and now it's ready. And now you're ready to buy it as it starts to turn up from there. 27 week, 27 by 8, 3T, 3 contractions, or 3C if you want to call it. But again, see, I can get an idea of what that pattern looks like just by having those little notes in my head. Okay, let's take a look at a few other, and I want to show you this too. I know I'm jumping around here, and you've got the workbook pages. We're going to actually jump over this page and just go to 143. So think of it as putting on a pair of glasses, and on those glasses, you've got this template. And then when you look at a chart, it overlays it. You want to back into that template. You want your stocks to look like a certain, and Dave, you say this all the time. Dave and I used to talk quite a bit, during the trading week. And I would say, hey, what do you think of, Netflix here? And he'd say, it doesn't have the look. That was his way of, just telling me, nope, it just doesn't have that look, what it's supposed to look like technically. So, we're not interested until it's got the look. And that look is this is having the look.
Yeah. And how you get that picture of what these stocks should look like right before they make their move is you study the greatest winners. You study the stocks You can even use it, you can, any charting program, if you can go back in time, or even look at a chart that's made a great move this year, go back to where it started the move, and you'll see these VCP patterns all the way, as it's right before it starts its move, and then it bases again, you'll see these again. But you've got to get that picture in your mind of what this looks like. So when you're going through charts, you'll be able to say, hey, that's got that look that it's about to go.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to give you not only show you all these examples, but give you the understanding behind it. So you understand what's happening, and you can really then visualize what you need to see and have some imagination as you're going through this, because you have to do this in real time. This is in hindsight, we look at all these stocks and you go, oh yeah, that looks obvious. Yeah, right there. There's where you buy. Yeah, because you're seeing it afterwards go up. But in real time, you've got to make these decisions in real time. And it's much more challenging, believe me. And you're going to have to do a lot of post analysis, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. But eventually you'll get to the point where your eyes will have these built-in VCP template glasses. Now, keep in mind, this isn't our creation. Okay, this is an observation. This is something that we've observed and learned, that these are timeless principles that go all the way back to the beginning of time. They're just the footprints of supply demand. It doesn't work because we use it or because someone with more money is manipulating the market. It works because this is the effect. This is the effect, not the cause. Very important point to always keep in your mind. All right, so again, stage 2 uptrend. Where are we looking for these? We're looking for these as soon as the stock gets into a stage 2 uptrend. So right away, when it turns into that stage 2 uptrend, you're going to start looking for VCP action. Okay, as soon as it meets that criteria. And Dave, you said that you like to use my 1 month template in MarketSmith, and that's one of the screens that can get you into these VCPs as early as possible, right? In these stage 2 uptrends.
Yeah, and especially turnaround stocks that haven't done well for a while, or they've just in one long base. That 200-day moving average starts turning up as the first little move occurs. So the stock goes from 10 to 15, but then tightens up, and that 200-day has moved up. And that's probably about the earliest buy point that you can get of a stock that is just coming out of a long basing period.
Right. And Dave, as you said before, we don't have to necessarily get the very first VCP in a new uptrend, right?
No, you can. Yeah, look at how many are in this one. You've got a number of chances to go ahead and buy the stock. And if you don't get the first base, you get it at the second, or you get it at the third. And some of them, usually a stock makes a move over a year or a couple of years. So you'll have a chance to find another spot where it does this.
Yeah. And often too, believe it or not, the later, as you get very late stage, sometimes you get blow-offs and they're very quick and you want to sell into those. But sometimes the middle of the move gives you the most momentum. So being early, some people think, buying low is better. Not necessarily. If you buy, again, like we talked about before, you don't want to buy at the lowest price. You want to buy at the right price. The right price is buying just before the stock's going to move, and move dramatically and quickly in your direction. That's the right price, because time, like we said before, time is also very important, time value. So let's look at some more of these. We're going to go through some more examples, and then we're going to show you, we're going to dig in a little bit deeper and really start to hone in on more specific characteristics. There's a lot of, think of it like a fingerprint. If you look at a fingerprint from far away, they all look alike, but no fingerprint is the same. It's the same thing with a stock chart, although there are characteristics within the chart that are going to show up every time. Every time you're going to see these certain characteristics, and there's only a handful of ways that you're going to set up within this VCP. So we're going to show you the various ways that the stock can set up, and you're going to have sort of this toolbox and have various levels to be able to get on a stock as it's starting to move. Again, looking at this BIIB, of course, it's Biogen, made almost a 500% move in 41 months. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then really tight right here. And see, once again, you see how once it comes out of here, look at how quick. Look how quick it jumps out in those first 4 days. 1, 2, and then 3 and 4. Boom, comes ripping out of there. That barely pulls back, gets right back into new high ground. That's because supply stopped coming to market, and now the stock is at the line of least resistance. Now, one of the things that we got to caution you with, and I've noticed in this recent last cycle, we have had a lot of stocks that have had pretty big declines, and some have worked. But generally speaking, when a stock is down big in that first cup with you, if you will, with a cup with handle, or in the first pullback of this volatility contraction pattern, if that is excessive, and excessive to me is when it gets over 50%. Yeah, I usually scratch it right off, and I don't even look at the stock, because now what happens is, and there's another way we're gonna measure that too. It's against the market, but just looking at in absolute terms, a stock that's off 60% now, comes back up that right side and has to make a really big move. You have 3 problems. One is that the big giant decline right there tells you that something may be wrong with the stock, because why is it falling so much? That's number one. Number two, you've got a lot of trap buyers. So you have a lot of overhead supply to contend with as it comes back up the right side. And you also have, as you have buyers around the lows, as it makes that big move, you've now got a lot of big profits that are going to get sold into. So your overhead supply increases dramatically, and that's why you'll get, very often these will fail. They'll come back up, they'll set up, and they're faulty setups. They're too wide, they're too loose, and they'll suck you in, and then they'll just collapse very quickly. They get overwhelmed by that supply. Dave, are you, when you start getting 60% declines in the stock in the correction phase, are you even considering those?
No, because the stock then has to more than double to get back to new highs. And the other thing is, my rule has always been, once a big stock has declined 50%, it's usually going to take years, a number of years, for it to reset itself. And usually once a stock has had that big of a decline, I almost stop looking at it, because I just know it's going to take too much energy to get back up to the highs, and it's probably going to fail. The only time I've seen this where a stock would decline more than 50% and then come back up to new highs and break out is in years of tremendous amount of speculation. And to me, that happens about once every 20 years. That was in the year 2000, 1999 into March of 2000. And then happened again in 2020, where some stocks had huge declines. But it's very, very rare that they do that. And that's why you're better off, once they've made that big of a decline, to just kind of keep it on the back burner, maybe check it every few weeks or every month. But it's not going to be a leader again.
Right. And also, like Dave said, this is also looking at the market and the environment. If you have a big bear market, you're going to have bigger and deeper bases. So they're going to be somewhat of a function, but you should always compare it to the market. So if you can see right here, I point out that this decline is a 60% decline. This is abnormal weakness, because the NASDAQ during this period only went down 6% during that period. So this is way underperforming. That tells you right there, there's tremendous amount of selling going on, and there's probably something wrong. Here's another stock to take a look at. This was a Travel Zoo, which comes off here, and again, 50% correction, while the NASDAQ is only down 10%. It did have a correction, but stocks that correct 5 times the general market, right there, that's telling you that something's wrong. Now it comes up the right side, it sets up, it does contract, breaks out, but then look at this, pow, it fails, gets on a big gap, comes crashing down, and that's because it gets overwhelmed again by that supply. Here's one that I had so many people ask me about this setup here on the right side, and I just kept poo-pooing it, and for some reason a lot of investors were interested in GoPro after it made this big decline. It was down 61% with the NASDAQ up only actually the NASDAQ was up during that period. It wasn't even down. So when I talk about an underperformance, 71% underperformance. Now it did, if you were so clairvoyant to buy the absolute low, it did make a move here, but by the time it got into a stage 2 uptrend, this now had such a large decline and was coming back into a lot of overhead supply here on the left side that wasn't too far back. If this was 5 years back, well, then that would be okay. But being so close, just a number of months, now you've still got a lot of overhead supply, and that set up in a very strange fashion and then just came right off and sold off. You'll see this will happen also in late stage environments where you've got a stock that broke out and maybe it came off of a bear market. It's set up. This is Decker's Outdoors. I actually was buying this coming out of this base right here, and you got a few smaller flat bases. You got another base here, and now you're getting into those late stage, 4th, 5th, 6th stage bases, and they get wide and they start undercutting the 200-day. Again, you're going to get those very deep cups, and those are going to be wide, loose, and prone to failure.
And that's almost a 50% drop there. I mean, 55 to 30, it got close, but it's still deeper than what you'd like to see. Also, the other thing is keep an eye on the time frame. How long has this thing been going? And this stock has been moving for a couple of years. So you combine the gain in price with the time that it's been running, and usually that clock is getting late after it's been running for over a year and a half to 2 years. It's time to be looking for a top.